Somebody had requested top 10 deck building strategies in Yu-Gi-Oh! Yep, we're doing it. Here we go, fellas. It's your guy. Sleep deprivation yet doesn't stop me for anything. So we're just gonna immediately get into this one. So, one of the best deck strategies in Yu-Gi-Oh! I'm gonna start off with is called milling. Now, what milling is it's a type of style where you're either trying to get something to the graveyard from your deck fast, or you're trying to get something to your banish from your graveyard fast by getting rid of a lot of your deck to help you draw the cards you need faster as well. Some examples of great milling mechanic decks go to Lightsworn, Skull Servant, and even Tier Elements. Tier Elements was really good. We had a brief period of time where we had these Ishizu cards that were absolutely bonkers, and I miss them. I miss them a lot. They were cards that basically allowed you to mill for free. Number 9 is a classic beatdown style. Now, what a classic beatdown style is in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is you're just basically trying to overpower your opponent with monsters they can't get over. With high attack, and they just beat you down with high attack monsters. There's not much to it. I'd say an example, a massive example of a beatdown deck would be Heroic Champions, Blue Eyes, and okay, yeah, there's the last beatdown deck. Freaking Tenpai Dragon. FTK slash OTK. Now, FTK slash OTK is a style of deck building where you try to finish your opponent off as fast as possible. Number 8. Now, some examples of OTKing and FTKing come from Cyber Dragon. On top of that, we got some other great OTKs. I'd say one of the best FTK decks of all times is Cosmo. Cosmo is a deck where you got the Wizard of Oz mixed with freaking Star Wars. One of the best archetypes of all time, fellas. Check it out. Now we go into number 7. Number 7 goes to meta. Now, what meta is it's the decks that are the most used by people. And the ones that have the best consistency within Yu-Gi-Oh!, so to speak. Some examples of great meta decks throughout time have been Necroz, Towers Turbo, Teledad, and back then we had a strategy called Yadalock, which will go into the next strategy at number 6. Number 6, anti-meta. Anti-meta is a term for taking a bunch of cards that are good against specific decks that are really good in the format, and just using them all in one deck somehow. I used to play an anti-meta deck. I used to play a really crazy anti-meta deck. Back in Yu-Gi-Oh! 2004 14, I was playing a deck where I had Thunder King and Denko Sekka and a whole bunch of other crazy cards like that were very suited for anti-meta. And at one point, I was against a Clayford player and I had the perfect field. It was Denko Sekka and 2 T-Kings. He could not get the scout search. Number 5 is the most frowned upon. We are talking about the stall strategy. Now, the stall strategy is what exactly it sounds like. It's what I'm doing to you right now. I'm stalling. Before I go into another example of great stall decks. For instance, Paleozoic. Great stall deck. You can't get over that shit usually. Rock Stun. Crazy stall deck. Amano Awano. Runic Stun. Yup. Definitely a stall deck. Karibo is the best stall deck of all time. And second best is Time Lord. Number 4 is a strategy I personally use myself. Opponent's card destruction. Or taking away my opponent's cards. Basically, I don't mean it in the literal sense, like I'm not literally grabbing their cards and running off with it, no. Specifically, I like the mechanic that allows me to use their cards as fusion materials for my cards, and I like to banish their deck away with Necroface. I like to do a whole bunch of stuff. Now, some deck building that is very around this is some decks that have been known to rip cards from your opponent are Yubel, because Yubel does that. Yubel does that now. My version does. Why doesn't yours? Mermails. Mermails was really freaking good. There used to be a hand loop where you could double Moulin Glacia your opponent, basically getting them into like Yada territory. Yada lock territory. Now, the last example of a deck that uses this sort of thing, it has to go for... has to go with Gradle. You don't know what Gradle is yet, but... Now, number 3. The almighty burn strategy. The burn strategy has been something that's prevalent in not only Yu-Gi-Oh!, but in many other card games, where burning your opponent for damage is a great way to win. Now, in Yu-Gi-Oh!, there's great ways in many decks to do so. For instance, there's a deck called Time Lords that you could literally cut your opponent's life points in half and FTK with them with it. Some people are like, Time Lords, they're stally. You're just not playing Time Lords correctly, fella. Another example of great burn strategies is Chain Burn. Chain Burn has been a sacred strategy for years. Chain Strike shouldn't have never been a card, but it has been. Number 2 is a special one because it's funny. It's Token Swarm. So what Token Swarm is you swarm your field with tokens. And you swarm your opponent's fields with tokens. Tokens for everybody. Now, this deck building strategy is literally its own deck, and it's subjective to whatever the hell you want to add to it. So check out some great token building strategies. For one, Wetlands. Wetlands has always been a great token card. Along with Token Stampede, you got the slimes. So basically how it works, right, is you got Token Stampede and you got Jam breeding jar. I'm gonna make this deck profile for you guys one time just to show you it. It's pretty hilarious. Now, time for number one, I guess. Now, there are many other strategies I could go over. There are probably about like maybe 45 deck building strategies in Yu-Gi-Oh! In the grand scheme of things. However, my favorite one that seems to appear in quite a bit of my decks is self-destruction, fellas. Self-destruction. Self-destruction, what could it mean? Is it me destroying myself? No. It's me making my opponent destroy themselves. Whether it's... Or my cards destroying themselves. My cards destroy themselves all the time. For example, Mech Lords. They destroy themselves to bring out the bigger versions of themselves so they kick ass. Bell. They destroy themselves to bring out bigger versions of themselves that are scarier. Same with Naturias. You could do the same with Naturias. But you know what's even better? Also whites. Like the Skull Serpent deck, definitely big factor in this one. But what's another form of self-destruction, fellas? Making your opponent reflect damage. They take in the damage you take. You could do that with Majesty Hyperion. You could do that with pretty much the entire Bell deck. You could do that with Mekanko. You could do that with, as I just said, Naturias. Self-destruction is a very crazy term. Now, if you wanted the Harakiri deck, the deck meaning Harakiri deck, bonus deck building strategy for a top 10 video, Harakiri. Harakiri is the deck where you destroy yourself in the game. Yeah. Basically, you just build a whole bunch of cards into this deck that burn yourself for damage. For instance, Hippo Carnival. One of the... Frick, what's that one Destiny card that, like, burns you 2,000? Yeah. Also, God of Thunder. Well, there you go, guys. This was my top 10 Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck building videos. Here we are. We're at the end. Like, comment some more stuff you'd like to see. And subscribe. Subscribble. Also, a lot of you aren't subscribed to me that watch me. Please subscribe. It would be very good for this channel to take off, you know. I want to start doing giveaways, but I can't afford to do giveaways to you guys until you guys pump me up.